Alright, in today's session what we're going to cover is the use of the IOCheck tool from Wago. With this tool we can go in and do several different things with regards to troubleshooting, diagnostics, commissioning of systems, as well as setup of certain I/O cards. One of the first things we want to do once we open the tool here is make sure that we have our communication settings properly set up. So we're going to go into here in this top menu and select settings and go into communication. Now, as you may know, we can do this a number of different ways. We can use serial ports such as your COM port, D-sub connection, USB cable, or even a wireless Bluetooth device that we can plug into the front of the controllers. We can also do this over Ethernet as well. So you come up here, select Ethernet, and type in the address of the appropriate device, or we could do a search as well and put in a range of devices and search those. Okay. In this particular exercise, we're going to focus on is just connecting to the device and what can be done. We are going to use a serial port, and in this case I'm just going to use the D-sub COM1 port. Once you've selected it, you can also, of course, from here test the connection. So here you can see the connection was successfully tested, the 750/880. Say OK, and then OK here. Okay, now that we've set up the communication channel to the device, again, either using serial communications or Ethernet, we want to actually connect to the device. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. First of all, you can go to the node pull-down menu and select read configuration, or you could simply click on the identify button here, and then you will see the node appear. First with the 880 here on the front end, you can see there's additional information. Here's the IP address, part number. We can also look at the various I/O cards attached to the node as well. Now there's different things we can do from this standpoint. First of all, if we have configurable devices or modules on the node, IOCheck allows us to go in and configure the individual parameters on the modules from this standpoint. So we could come in, for example, here to the RS-232 serial interface with adjustable configuration, and we can right key click on that module, and when we do, we'll see the settings is in bold here. Now you don't want to be in control or monitor mode in particular here. Actually, you don't want the mode to be selected at this point. If you do select control mode or monitor mode, if you simply click on the button up here again, it'll take you kind of back out of that and you can get into these settings. So if I select settings from here, you will see now that I'm inside the card here, and what I can do is come in and change things like the baud rate, data bits, stop bits, things of this nature for the card, depending on what I'm trying to do as far as set up the communications with some other device, maybe a barcode reader or an HMI or something like that, whatever the case may be, using serial communications. So once we've actually done this, we've changed the parameters, we of course can save the settings on this device in here, and you can just come in here and say, whatever node description you want to give it. And then once you do this, of course, you need to write the settings. At this point, we haven't written anything to the card, so we're going to write the settings for the serial card, and now those are on there. And if we come in here, of course, we can read what is on the card. So let's say if it's set up already, we want to just read what's on the device, we can do that as well. So okay, we're going to exit out of here now that we've set this card up. A few other things that we can do. You can see with some of the interface cards, particularly the discrete input-output, you will see this XX here. There's several variations on the card, and it wants a specific one selected. So if I right key click on this one and just select rename, then it gives me a short list of potential cards for that specific slot in the node. I can select the appropriate one, say OK, and now I can see the correct module is displayed here, the 1506, which is an 8N 8 out IO card, discrete. Alright, now what we're going to do is go into monitor mode so that we can read information from the device or the controller and its process image here. Again, the whole point here is we're just trying to read information. We're not going to try to write to anything. So if I open, for example, here the discrete input output card I should say, I can see inputs, outputs going high, low, that kind of stuff, and I could look at analogs as well as the discretes and values. Now this time, of course, I don't run a program or anything, so we're just going to quickly look at that. So again, monitor mode is just that. We're going to monitor the situation, the status of inputs and outputs, maybe look at the process data with regards to maybe a serial card or something like that, but we can't write to anything at this point. Now if we do want to in fact write to various inputs and outputs on the device, what we can do is go into control mode. So we come over here, select direct for example, or you could just click on the control mode button here and go into a control mode. So from here, now you can see that input is still high, but now if I wanted to, I can actually turn on some of these outputs. And the last 8 indicators on here, the bottom 8 indicators on this device are the outputs, the top 8 are the inputs. I can also look at, like I said, the analog side of this, for example, here, and you can see that the analog output is going to be tied to this input, for example. So then if I change the values here, you'll see them change on the input side as well, just to show you that you can read the values. This could be used for commissioning, startup, troubleshooting, various things like that, so that we can actually write to values. Maybe I'm trying to send a speed reference here. I'm looking at a measured value here, like it says tank level. Again, turning on an enable for a function, forward, reverse, and so forth. But again, here I can turn things on and off. Now at this point in control mode, I'm also in direct mode of operation. So I'm turning on each and every one of these outputs and changing the outputs as I click on them directly. Okay. Now there's another function in here, again great for commissioning and troubleshooting. I can come in here and go into collect mode. Now you can see this little send button pops up, and what happens here is I'm going to collectively write to values. So if I wanted to turn on these various outputs, let's say, if I looked on the controller right now physically, none of these outputs are actually on right now. I'm just getting an indication through the tool. And if I change this value, for example, and this value, you can see in actuality right now these values have not changed. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, want these values set here and here. Now I want to collectively send that data. Then when I send it to the device, now these outputs are physically on here, the discrete side, and you can see now the outputs from the analog side have changed as well, and we can see that on the analog input card here. All right. Some of the other things that we can do, we can rename values in here. You can see I have this tank level 1, for example, speed reference. If I right key click here, rename, this could be tank level 2, for example. And just to show you how to go in, again, right key click, speed ref 2. Okay. All right. And so again, the point there is if I had this original configuration and just said analog N1, analog N2, whatever the case may be, it may not be useful information for me. But if I can come in and edit these values so that they reflect something maybe in the prints or drawings or in the program itself, then I can use that information here and help me to troubleshoot or commission the system, as opposed to just vague discrete input 1, analog output 2, whatever the case may be. So again, that's useful there to be able to change those values or information here regarding to what each point is referencing. Another thing that we can do with this tool is if we take this file and save it, um, what we can do is take that information and then we can, um, excuse me, save as, sorry. Then we can come in here and maybe we just put in an IP address for a description here. And save this XML file. Now when we want to come back to this device, log into it, we can use that XML file to do that and have all this information set up so we don't have to do it each time we scan or read the note. Another thing we can do is the XML file, now that I've created, I can actually use that, pull that information into Codesys and use that for my configuration, my PLC configuration file in Codesys, and that'll be shown in another video. But again, it's very simple to do, but it's nice to have that where I can take the XML file from IOCheck and then pull it into Codesys itself. So as I mentioned, you can go into monitor mode for just reading data. We can go in control mode where we can read and write data. We have a couple of options there, direct and collect. Direct individual points and then collect, using that to collectively send the information. There is a force and a permanent force. If I turn a value or change a value on or off, whatever the case may be, then when I close IOCheck, that value will go back to its previous state. Permanent, if I do that and then I close IOCheck here, then it will hold that value to whatever I set it to. A couple other things to point out as well. For example, here I don't have to look at a voltage value. I could actually look at the hexadecimal value, again for commissioning and so forth, looking at my scaling and other things, maybe even in my program, to make sure my information is accurate and being displayed properly. I could do that from here. I can change that back and forth again. Another thing that I can do with this tool is, again, use this information for perhaps documentation. So if I come out of here of control mode, I can come into file, this print preview, and now what I will see is a graphic representation of the node, and I can see that I can go in here and look at this information with regards to the node structure, the various inputs and outputs, things of that nature, and use this for my documentation. Alright, so hopefully this information was useful for you. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact our corporate location at 1-800-DNRAIL for additional assistance. Thank you.